You've all probably heard the news that Damian Lillard has been shut down for the remainder of the season by the Portland Trailblazers, which is ridiculous given that he is turning 33 this offseason and having his best ever season at 32 points per game, 7 assists per game, and shooting the ball very well at 56% effective field goal shooting percentage on a high volume. Nevertheless, as we've come to expect from the Portland Trailblazers, this season and amongst the last few, they're 32-44 at the time of recording, well outside the play-in, and are on pace to win 35 games, which further calls into question Dame's blind faith to the franchise this offseason. But please, remember guys, the only person he has to blame is himself. And you heard that right, himself. He could leave any time he wanted to, and no one would bat an eye. Everyone would support his decision to leave. Even Portland fans, I'm sure, would be supportive of his choice to leave, given the respect that he's built in that city, and the front office would likely do the right thing by him. The historic inability to build around Dame, where even the Dame and CJ era where that conference finals appearance looks like more of an outlier than something to hang your hat on. Damian Lillard deserves way more than what Portland has given, and I'm pretty sure that's clear to all of you guys. However, the future outlook for the rest of this season and the off-season looks like the team could end up with a top 5 draft pick. Then also factoring in that they have a dark horse opportunity to get Victor Wembanyama, as they have only slightly worse odds than the worst teams like Houston and Detroit in the league to get the Frenchman. And they also have New York draft pick acquired in the Josh Hart deal, which also saw them get Cam Reddish. So they definitely could make a move for any star player that would request out of their, team they're currently on. But this does beg the question, would Portland swing for the fences, sacrifice its future for its loyal but aging star, who as I mentioned before, will be 33 in the month of July? And this would require them to make some major moves to win now by shaking up the roster, most likely involving them trading young pieces like Anthony Simons, who, despite being great and shooting 3 balls efficiently at 37% on high volume, has been the second coming of CJ McCollum, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but when you factor in it's an undersized backcourt which isn't really that good at defense like the Blazers had been going for year after year with CJ and Dame, it looks like the defensive horrors of an undersized backcourt have just continued to resurface, and it is kind of ironic that they finally got rid of CJ only to replace him and give significant minutes to another shooting guard who is poor on the defensive end. Shaedon Sharpe has been a promising player for them. Do they cut his growth and trade him off for 3 years of Dame's prime to try and contend and chase titles there, or do they keep him? Jusuf Nurkic has been on the team for pretty much the whole of this Dame era with CJ, and obviously even now after, and he could be part of the team's consistent problems in the front court. Do they look to trade him and get a proper star level center to put with Dame in the pick and roll? That's another factor that they have to look at too. But if the Blazers build around Dame and are committed and willing to making moves, it needs to happen, and it needs to be deep range changing moves. It can't just be trading for Jeremy Grant, who, no shade to him, he's been great and they should keep, but it can't be like trading for guys like, getting guys like Gary Payton in free agency and hoping that's going to change things. You need to acquire stars and try and get Dame an all-star, which you haven't put around him since 2015. Or do the Portland Trailblazers convince Dame to leave, or does Dame just request a trade? Because there's no way Portland, behind Dame's back, against Dame's best wishes, trade him after all this unvalidated loyalty that he's given to them over all these seasons. It could be good for them to trade him while his value is pretty high and is as close as what it can be to a peak theoretically. I know he is old, but he's still having one of his best seasons and will age pretty well given his outside game before he turns 36 and is owed $60 million in that season. Dame could be the last piece for many contending teams or teams on the hunt for a championship, such as New York, you could say, such as also Philadelphia if they were to make some moves on the outer by getting rid of Tobias Harris and Maxey in a potential deal. And they would draw no criticism to leave and go to a situation that's more favourable with guys like Stephen A. Smith supporting Dame if he were to choose to leave. Because Portland's recent attempt to shake up the roster last trade deadline and this past offseason has been such a failure after all, it might just be time for the Blazers to call it quits and cash in. As when you look at the roster, it's such a weird mix between old players like Dame, Jeremy Grant, and Jusuf Nurkic, and then young players like Simon, Reddish, Little, Sharp, Thibault, Watford, and Keon Johnson, just to name a few, as players under the age of 25. And if you were to take Dame out of the picture when looking at that roster, you would think this team was in the midst of a rebuild, not trying to make a run in the now around their aging superstar. I'm sure many Blazers fans would be upset, but understand Dame's change of heart if he were to request to leave, given all of the great moments he gave to the city of Portland. And just before I continue to the final phase of the video, if you enjoyed it, please like, subscribe and comment because it helps the YouTube algorithm, and I want to have you guys around for more NBA content too, but let's continue. To the hard truth that many people probably don't want to hear, in the 10 years that Portland has had Damian Lillard on their roster, they have a 52% win percentage, which means that if you put that into any average season, it would be 42.5 wins. Add this to the fact that Portland, again, as I mentioned before, have been unable to pair Damian Lillard with an NBA All-Star since 2015, when LaMarcus Aldridge, who himself after that season left the team to join San Antonio, where he would see way more success after years of carrying the team to dead end after dead end, with obviously some misfortune with Brandon Roy's injuries. Overall, Portland would need to roll the dice on their future for a 33-year-old who they know deep down will stay regardless of what they do, and that will then give them no urgency to make moves, with them having all the leverage knowing Dame wants to stay regardless and stick to the grind, as I put in my thumbnail. And this ultimately leads to Portland only making moves if it suits them and makes a lot of sense for them in the future, rather than over the next 3 years where their window of contending with Dame it really lies. If Dame still feels insecure or stubborn about the hate he thinks he's going to get, then he need look no further to the rafters of Motor Center, Clyde Drexler's jersey hanging. You see, the Glide was and still is a Blazers legend despite leaving and winning with Houston after having come so close in the NBA Finals with the team. He also was the greatest player of Portland's franchise until Damian Lillard took over as the leading scorer, but that could be a question for you guys to answer in the comments, if Dame is a better all-time player for the Blazers than Clyde Drexler. But if Dame chooses to stay, it's hard, we all want him to succeed, but we need to stop feeling bad for him and saying things like, he doesn't deserve this, or free Dame, because the only person who can free him is himself, and if he doesn't do that, that's his choice. Now thank you guys for watching, don't forget to like and subscribe, also comment what you thought of the video, and until next time, peace out. Thank you for watching.